My relationship with the Cybertruck has changed recently. When it first came out, I absolutely loved it. I put my order in as soon as I could. I'm one of the ones that actually likes the way it looks. I have my foundation order ready to go. I've got it since like the second month it was available. I can buy this whenever I want. I went to go check out the prototypes when they were on display. Like I was all in on Cybertruck, and I was like, yes, this is going to be our next EV. But even though it's available, we didn't end up buying the foundation because it just felt like a really bad financial decision, especially when you know the truck's going to be significantly cheaper very soon here. So we just held out. And as you know, I've seen more on the road and more time has gone on, and I've just been able to think about if this is the truck I want, my opinion started to shift. There's like two sides of it. There's the fans online who this is like their first pickup truck and they act like it's the second coming and it's the best thing to ever be made. And that is just simply not true. And then there is the failed promises that Tesla said this truck would have that it just doesn't. And so I decided it's time to, you know, just actually try it out, put it to the test. And after driving it for just under a week, I gotta say, some of my hesitations were definitely true and correct, but I kind of get what all those Tesla bro fanboys have been talking about. This has a lot of things built in that you can't get in any other Tesla that actually makes it, I think, kind of worth it. Let's go talk about it. Oh, and by the way, thanks to BLUETTI for sponsoring this video. When this was first announced, the thing I was most excited about personally is that, well, it's a truck, and that means you could do truck things with it. And what's interesting about this car is because it's a Tesla and it's electric, the demographic that has really been vocal about it and that has bought it, it's clear that these people have never owned trucks. And it's kind of funny to watch people discover, you know, what a truck is in real time. I've grown up with trucks. I've been around pickups my whole life, so this is nothing new. But I've actually never personally owned one because I've just never really needed to. But since, you know, buying a house, we've been doing renovations, landscaping, a truck could really come in handy. There is probably 20 times in the last 6 months that I have needed a truck, and instead I have to opt for things like paying for delivery, or I have to ask friends who have a truck. Having this would actually be useful in my life. Maybe not every single day, but I could definitely put it to use. So this was intriguing. And because it's a 6-foot bed, which is your, you know, traditional size, it's not like what you get in a Rivian. The utility is there. I can haul plywood, I can haul drywall, and I can, you know, put everything in the back here. That for me was a big reason why the Cybertruck was like at the top of my list, because it was all the Tesla things and all the truck things in one. And that is 100% living up to what I was hoping for. Now, it's a truck bed, so if you've had trucks before, you've been around them, it's really not all that different, but there are a few nice things built in here, like all the tie down points that you can move around and rearrange depending on where you need them. Super handy to have that here. I really love the extra cargo down in the bottom, so you can store some of the, you know, less used things, but stuff you always want to have with you. Perfect spot for that. Although I will say I'd rather that be a spare tire like what you get in Rivian. That would be nice, but storage, I guess, works fine. And then I also love that there is power back here because I love to go camping. I do filmmaking for a living. Everything I do requires extra power. And this, with your 220 volt and one 240 volt, means I can power pretty much anything I would ever use. I talk about on my videos how we love going outdoors, going camping, and that power is something I would absolutely use. And the back of this bed is the perfect spot to hang out and camp. And if you get like the base camp tent, I mean, I don't really love the design of that, but you could do that here and it would work great. You get the power, and I think that all works really well. Now, with that being said, what if you like to do those kind of things, but you don't have a car like this with power in the back? Well, that's where this video's sponsor, BLUETTI, comes in with their AC70. So BLUETTI has been making batteries for quite some time now, and this, the AC70, is I think a great option for tons of different people. This is a 1,000-watt battery with 768 watt-hours of power. And this is the sweet spot, I think, to power most people's recreation, work, and just different activities. For me, I use this for, like I was saying, when I'm camping and off-grid, because I can power things like Starlink, which sister company to here, the Cybertruck and Tesla. I power Starlink all the time. I can power my portable refrigerator off of this. And if I'm not camping, I can also power things like my studio equipment. If I want to power my lights, I can do that all with this. Now, like I said, this is a 768 watt-hour battery with 1,000 watts of power, but if you need a little extra boost, you know, some appliances might require that when they start up, this can go up to 2,000. Now, even though this is a big capacity, it can also charge super quickly. From 0 to 80%, it only takes about 45 minutes when plugged in over AC, but that's not the only way to charge. You can also charge with solar, and it accepts up to 500 watts of solar input, so if you have those different solar panels. Plus, this thing is safe and dependable. So it has a battery management system built in, so it knows what the batteries are doing. It's using lithium iron phosphate batteries that are super long lasting. After 3,000 cycles, you'll still have 80% available to you. Plus, it is a great base station here. If you wanted to expand on it, this can kind of be your brain, but BLUETTI offers other batteries that let you expand upon your investment. Like the B80, B230, and B300. So when paired with that B80, you now have 1,574 watt-hours of battery, which is more than double. So if you want to learn more about this, check it out and pick one up for yourself. I'll leave links down below in the description. Okay, so what's funny about all the stuff I was talking about in the bed is that none of it is really new. I mean, there's tons of trucks that have tie-down points that are easy to adjust. There's trucks that have 240 volt outlets in the bed. There's even trucks that have storage just like this. Okay, truck may be a, strong term, but vehicles with a bed have storage down below. Nothing here is really new. Even this, the powered tonneau cover, which is kind of loud, I'll just stop it there. But even that, which is very good here and works really well, I absolutely love it, that is not a new concept. This all has existed before. What is different though, is that you get all of this utility with a Tesla and with an EV, because there's just not that many options for a truck like this in this size and with this, technology. There's just not that many options right now. And having it with a Tesla, with your, electric vehicle power, that is something I was looking for, and that is totally lived up to the hype. Now, I didn't need to have hands-on with this truck in order to know that it is a truck and that it comes with those truck utility features. I didn't need to know that. It was just nice to experience it. What I didn't know though is how it was actually going to drive once you are sitting here in the driver's seat, because there's a lot going on here. And let me say, the way it drives is by far the reason why I want a Cybertruck now. This steer-by-wire system with the four-wheel steering and just the air suspension, everything comes together to make one of my favorite driving experiences ever. Not just with any EV or Tesla, but literally ever. The biggest thing with that is the steer-by-wire. Now, there's been tons of videos, explaining what this is, but basically this is an electronic system that is not physically connected to the wheel. So when I turn the wheel, it's not actually turning the wheel, it's sending a signal to turn the wheels. Now, a lot of people get hesitant with that because it sounds kind of scary, but there's a lot of things that aren't connected that already work that way and you wouldn't even know it. So that's not really a big issue to me. What I love though is that I only have to turn the wheel a certain amount in order to get the full rotation of the wheels on the ground. It is great. And that paired with the four-wheel steering really makes this car super simple to drive. So much so that I want this steer-by-wire system in every single car that is going to be made from here on. Having a car without this at this point feels like it's kind of outdated. It really is that good in my book. And really what that gives you is that this car is just easy to drive. I can drive with one hand all the time. I can make U-turns with one hand. I can, go off-road with one hand. And with that rear steering, you get a really tight turning radius. And again, with just one hand, I can make a full U-turn, and it is just mint. So for me, the steering has kind of sold the car for me. Like, this is a game-changing feature, but it's not the only thing here. This is the Cyber Beast mode, so it's the tri-motor variant. It is stupid fast. If I was getting one, the Cyber Beast is not what I would get because it's so much power, and where I live, like, there's nowhere I could really use it. So I would get the dual motor, but even that is crazy fast. And when you have a truck that weighs, 7,000 pounds, is the size of a regular pickup, or feels bigger, but it's the size of a regular pickup. It's big, it's heavy, and then it can go 0 to 60 in 2-ish seconds. It is insane. The wheels chirp. It doesn't like doing it, but it can, and it can do it over and over again. But bringing that to a more practical sense, yeah, 0 to 60 is fun and all, but it means you can have a truck with the truck bed, the utility, but you can still get around traffic. You can zoom onto the freeway and catch up with the oncoming traffic. And then you have the suspension, which can raise and lower depending on what you are doing, and it is tuned extremely well. Really, the only thing I can compare it to is the Rivian R1T, because when I took that off-road and was doing washboard roads going pretty fast, that suspension was tuned so well that it was the softest experience I'd ever experienced on washboard roads. This feels just like that, but it's a bigger car with a full-size bed. They did a really good job with the suspension. And look, I knew that I was going to be fine with how it drives because I'm used to driving new cars. I've driven cars with all-wheel steering before, and I know how that feels and how useful it is. And I was confident that, the steer-by-wire system was going to work really well. That all ended up being true. But what I was more, interested in is how my wife was going to, think about it, because she would be driving this car a lot if we ended up getting one. And well, she likes it a lot. She was very, very hesitant, but because it is so nimble and easy to maneuver, even though it is rather large, she's sold. And she doesn't really want to tell me that because, I might get some more ideas about actually getting one of these things. But she was converted and understands that this thing is actually pretty easy to drive, even though it's big. Now, those two things for me were things that I were hoping would be good and ended up actually being great. Like, it's exactly what I was hoping the car would be. It drives really well. It has all the storage and utility I was hoping for. But then that brings me to kind of a negative, and it's kind of an unknown with this truck. Clearly, the design is made to draw attention, and it does. Literally driving down the road, everyone is looking at you. Now, granted, this is a pretty new truck. There's not that many of them, so I'd imagine that over time that will start to diminish. I will say though, kids absolutely love this truck, and it lights up their face. I think it makes their day, so that, it's fun. Not a bad thing at all, but it does draw a lot of attention. But what I think about is, what is this going to look like, or what is it going to feel like when there's like 1 million of these on the road? Because that is their projection, right? We're going to supposedly get millions of these Cybertrucks out there on the road. What is our opinion of the looks and the design going to be like when there's that many of them? Because right now it is a novelty, and it's a novelty design, so it makes sense. But if this is just like what trucks are, I don't know. At that point, I'm not sure that the novelty is actually worth it, because there are some sacrifices that you have to do to get this look. For instance, in the A-pillars here, there are some pretty big blind spots that if you want that triangular design, that's how it's going to be. The dashboard is extremely huge. My camera is sitting on it right now. It's huge. This glass for the windshield is huge, and if it breaks, it's expensive. The stainless steel, even though I really like it, it is a pain to keep clean, and it does get very, very dirty, as you can see with the one I have now. There are clearly a lot of decisions Tesla made to get this design and this look, which right now, because it's new, it's fun, and I really like it. But as this ages, I'm worried it's not going to age well at all. And that's something we're just going to have to wait and see what happens with that. It might age beautifully, but I'm worried that this thing, the novelty, is going to wear off really quickly. And the more I use it, the more I realize I feel like that's going to be the case. But luckily, all the other components that are really important to a car, like how it drives and the utility, those are there. So maybe the looks might get a little bit old, but maybe that's not gonna matter. So yeah, after spending a good amount of time with this Cybertruck, living with it every day, actually, you know, living my life, running errands, you know, just driving to work and all that stuff, the Cybertruck has kind of proven itself to me. There are still issues there. Those issues exist. The design I'm still not sure of in the long term, but the things it does really, really well, I'm sold. I want them in other cars. If other cars get them, then I will be super happy. The Cybertruck for me is back on the top of the list. Alexa and I are in the process of deciding what car we're gonna get next. She wants the Model 3 Performance. I obviously want this now, and well, we're gonna decide. Big price differences there. Maybe it's gonna be none of these, but for me at least, for the time being, after experiencing it, Cybertruck, it's back on top.